The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing.
Walt Disney.
Speak softly and carry a big stick.
Theodore Roosevelt.
The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams.
Eleanor Roosevelt. Curiosity fosters connection.
Death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside while still alive. Never surrender.
Who said that?
Oh, and that king. All right, as usual, welcome to Pie Talk. It's your boy, B. Willis.
And Priscilla Z. Nice to see everybody.
And I have your quote for you right now. This person says, I can tell something important is happening for you. I care about that. I'm here. Or, I can see how upset you are. I believe you. I really do. Are powerful scripts for your toolbox.
Ooh, I'm like, it sounds like whoever said that is really into pie.
Sounds like pie to me.
Super pie. I'm like, pie stands for pursuing internal evolution, as we all know. But I'd be interested to start seeing maybe what that is starting to look like for all of you guys. Like, is your pursuing internal evolution happening all day long? Is it happening at certain points in your day when you're recognizing and noticing it? Is it happening when you're interacting with others, or is it happening when you're interacting with just yourself? So let's take a chance this week and maybe think about how pursuing internal evolution is specifically affecting you.
How are you applying karate chopping away the tea?
A good old ninja.
Staying away from the tea conversations. What are some ways that you can respectfully decline entering into those conversations when people are constantly trying to bring tea your way? How do you not engage? Comment. Either in the YouTube or the Facebook page. Either one's fine. I'm curious what you audience have to say about that. What are your tactics?
Yeah, speaking of things to say, we got a little shout out from another person from our anger management course that was really special to us. The woman that I'm going to speak about right now, her name is Tanya, and I had the pleasure of doing a one-on-one with her to where she got to role play being the instructor, and then I got to be the instructor as well, and we both switched and were students for one another. And I have never seen somebody so naturally kind. Like, she actually, her soul is so pure and loving. She is going to be a great asset for the anger management community, because I think that her think about it, sort of natural essence is something that she didn't really need training for. It just is kind of who she is. She's very methodical in how she speaks. And when I was in the class with her, it was really cool. But I was like, what is this feeling, And she just makes you feel like you're at home. And it didn't matter what we were talking about. She really had a great way of making you feel comforted. One thing that she did do is we have like a running dialogue happening with all the people that were in class with one another. And somebody posted the Pie Talk podcast for everybody. And Tanya said, "That's excellent. I listened to your podcast. It's really good. I would recommend others in the group to listen to it too." So super cool, Tanya. We appreciate you stating that it's a resource that not only was something you valued, but something that you can share with other people, which we would love for all of you guys to do. If you see somebody that you're interacting with and they're kind of struggling maybe or having a hard time on that pursuing internal evolution, send them our way. Like, don't hesitate to be like,
share
the
pod.
Just tell them. Even I always say, just in quick format, I just say, hey, look at YouTube. Just look up Pie Talk. You'll be able to find us. It's super quick. It's a great way of just getting anybody on board with our pursuing internal evolution.
Yeah, and our branding specialist, Shoutout Threat Brown. You know, now when you look up Pie Talk, you'll see a more crispier, just a more focused looking our logo for one.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Super cool.
And two, you know, just our faces on a simple podcast cover so that you know exactly that you found the right podcast.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's our faces all in it.
And our smiles, like we were saying on the last show, which we hope do nothing but gift more smiles. So.
Yeah, you cannot be angry while you're smiling.
Right. I love it. I'm wondering if anybody we love and know has some tips for us. Is there some keep effing going that we might want to share with everybody right now?
I think it is.
Uh-huh. I just wanted to do a shout out to we've got Joshua Smith and Jordan Davis. We appreciate you both so much for your lovely book. And we started over again on our day one, which I love. We're kind of revamping stuff. We've already gone through in a couple of the first episodes, but now we've got our new format. And so we're starting to step into the same in a new light. And we really appreciate that. We're at day 3. And it says, Vincent Van Gogh only sold one painting in his lifetime, but is now considered one of the greatest artists of all time.
I remember this one. I like it.
Totally. What lessons can we learn from Van Gogh's perseverance and dedication to his craft, despite experiencing little recognition and success during his lifetime?
It kind of sparks the same kind of conversation around success and how subjective it is.
Yeah.
What do you consider success is always going to be the focus point when you're talking about success. You know, the first time we went through this, I'll reiterate, for him, for all we know, the completion of each of those paintings was a point of success for him. And because he didn't get recognition, or his art didn't get recognition till after his passing, and now he's one of the most known, recognized artists in the world, he doesn't even get to enjoy that in his human vessel. So was he successful when he was alive, do you think? Or is he more successful now that he's passed? And how does that even work?
Right. This also brings up a concept that I recently was discussing with a dear friend of mine. And we were chatting because he is kind of in the middle of his life right now, wondering which direction to go. How is he going to be successful in life? And he is an author. He writes books.
Nice.
And I said, oh, well, why don't you, what kind of books are you interested in writing? What do you think you would be successful at? And he said something that really was interesting to me. He said the ideas for the books that he has, they won't be successful until after he dies. And I thought, oh, wow, like that perception of his story, his whole story has to be complete, including the finale, in order for the recognition that he believes he deserves to come through. And I thought that is an interesting perspective to carry and to even think about what success could be. It might not even be something that we're trying to accomplish right in this physical lifetime, right in this physical moment. It could be like a legacy that you leave behind. It could be the stories that people talk about after you go. And for me, I think that I've experienced a lot of success in my life, but some of the people that have shown me success truly didn't really give me their greatest teachings until they did leave the earth. And I thought that perspective was humbling and interesting to really sit with. Like, who around you is inspiring right now, but how inspiring will they be to you and why when they leave? And could we start to acknowledge their inspiration while they're here in the flesh before they go?
You know, it's really dope that this concept comes up because, and you've heard me speak about my incarceration. I've done a lot of time. So it's actually allowed me for a few different unique perspectives on life. For example, being incarcerated in a lot of ways is like experiencing death while alive, because life goes on and you can watch vicariously as that happens. And then there was a few people that did something that I wasn't expected, and I'm very humbled by it, is they made some post on Facebook and they said, we're going to give you your flowers while you're still here.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
why wait till someone's dead to give them their flowers, right? And the last thing, which actually kind of led into my pursuit of internal evolution and what I wanted, is when I was in prison experiencing that death while alive, I thought to myself, if I did not make it out of these walls,
Mm.
what legacy am I leaving? What are people going to remember? What are my kids going to remember about me? You know, I've had those type of internal conversations, and I thought to myself, bump that. When I get
I
home,
love it.
I'm writing a whole new narrative, because when I go, I want my kids to have something to be proud of, and I want to feel good about the legacy I left behind, and not just some statistic,
Mm.
some godforsaken, left in the wind type of number. Because when you're incarcerated, you're literally reduced to a number. And you know, the phrase "out of sight, out of mind" really plays a big role
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're communicating with people, because they're out here, they're living their life, they're doing things that normal everyday people do in their lives. They have struggles, they have triumphs and celebrations and bills and jobs and marriages and kids, and all these things are happening while you're just sitting inside of this cage, and life is passing you by. It's kind of like being a ghost while not being a ghost.
Wow, that's really that's profound to really consider and think about. I like that we have, this Keep Effing Going book. We've already touched day 3, but today we're diving even deeper into the concept. It's very different than the last thing that we perceived from this page. So I kind of want to challenge everybody. Let's take Vincent Van Gogh and let's honor him a little bit, and let's look at ourselves. Let's look inward, and what's something that you find valuable about yourself that we could honor within this lifetime, that you could allow yourself to be successful for before you go.
And then take one step further. I try not to say but, so we're going to say and.
I love that.
Give somebody else
Yeah.
their flowers in your life. You know, whether it's a post on Facebook, a text, a card. We talked about writing letters. You know, take that step. Write a letter to somebody with the sole purpose of giving them their appreciation, or giving them your appreciation, allowing them to receive the gift of your appreciation, and be specific when you give somebody thanks about what it is that you're thanking them for.
Yeah, it'll filter later into the topic of our show today, but I got some lessons in my life that became blessings. And one of them was that I lost my father about 17 years ago. And when he passed on, I started to see things that I missed about him, things I respected about him, things that I loved about him that I didn't really get a chance to tell him about while he was here, because I was younger and I didn't really understand the value of what a parent really meant to me. And so I will say that it was really cool with my mom. I had many years with her, just her and I did a lot of that. I did a lot of gratitude, a lot of thanking and understanding and recognizing her for the skills and qualities that she brought forth as a mother. And when she did pass on, I felt really good. I felt really great about having those conversations. And it was kind of, it wasn't like a shoulda, coulda, woulda regret stuff. I didn't have that on my table, because I had taken a chance to go out and acknowledge her for the successes that she had brought forth to us children. It was really great. I think we could head to some more challenges if you're interested.
Daily challenges. I was glancing at the top of the cards, and I'm like, just grab the top, because I see where we're going with this. I'm going to grab mine first.
Perfect.
Better than yesterday. Not gonna lie.
Love it.
Better than yesterday, 120. Take 5 minutes and write down how you're really feeling right now.
Oof.
Leave nothing out. Being radically honest with yourself is the key to living a life without regrets. Did you see through this card when you were saying what you...
I really, really love that. It actually reminds me of I always use my family and my friends as people that are examples in my life because they're the ones I love the most, you know. But my kid, man, my kid's got, we call it big feelings. And so like if we see actually like a houseless person that's in the streets and maybe like having a mental breakdown or something, rather than shaming or, you know, saying something negative, we acknowledge that they have big feelings, that they have a lot of feelings going on, and that it's something that we don't really understand because it's very complex for that individual. And I don't want to assume or make judgments like the cards here. And even if they're walking in front of my car, I'm not going to take it personally. And I'm definitely going to be impeccable with my words when I'm talking with my kid. And so we say, hey, you know, it looks like that person's having big feelings. Well, this is transferred into her ability to navigate her own experience. And so she actually was talking about a situation that just happened yesterday, and she had complex emotions. And they were that she was happy about something, she was proud about something, she was embarrassed, she was hurt, and she was angry. And it was all in the same moment. But to her, at her 4-year-old level of rigorous honesty, she was capable of acknowledging all of the big feelings that were going on for her. And man, I just sat in awe over her because I thought, dude, you are doing things that us adults are trying to relearn. And she right now has the capacity to take that time, like that 5 minutes, and really acknowledge every single thing that's going on in her body. And she could even be happy and angry all at the same moment. But at least she was being honest. I really dug and respected that.
I know a lot of people, man, who could take lessons from your 4-year-old.
Oof, right.
And speaking of that, you know, when you're saying like houseless people, just yesterday, our kids screamed in the backseat. I thought something was happening. We're at a stoplight. They're like, stop, stop, stop. And it was because there was a houseless lady on the corner.
Yeah.
And, you know, they wanted to give that person some dollars. And it's just like, it's so cool, you know, to be able to raise good humans.
That they had that much emotion that you were even like, wait, what? And it seemed like something crazy. But to us,
but to them, it was important. It was
Right.
It was, you know, somebody else's perspective matters. You have to sometimes just take a moment to see that.
That's beautiful. Those two kids too, they're soul-tastic, man. They came packing. I love it. That's awesome. All right, so we got better than yesterday, which I love this for me so much. No phone, no prob. And it's awesome too because it's on Better Than Yesterday 111, which I don't know if you guys know this or not, but when 111 appears, it's only amplifying your thoughts. So if you're thinking something at 1111, the universe and the angels are promoting what you were thinking about. So you better watch what you're thinking as long as you are not watching the clock, because you might get tripped up if you're thinking negative things and you didn't see that it was 111. We've got go without your phone for 24 hours. Only use it when absolutely necessary. Be fully present in what you're doing for 24 hours. No distractions, no comparing yourselves to others, and no bored scrolling. I'm like, so I offer to everybody out there to try to take this challenge for real and then let us know what happens in your life. I would love to either hear long responses and or short, and maybe we'll actually pull something up on Facebook for everyone to comment and their experiences of how they pull off this challenge. I will say and suggest that getting out of the environment that you're constantly in is a great way to try this out. So if you take a trip away for the weekend or even for the day, that's a great time to try and turn that phone off and step away from all the obligations you feel like you must be obligated to.
Again, quality time. So I have a perspective that goes back to being incarcerated, because when you get a visit from somebody and you're incarcerated, they take their phones, and obviously the prisoners don't have phones. So those visits are extremely person focused. Whether you go get a game off the shelf or you're just sitting there having conversation, spend quality time with each other like you're at a prison visit.
Oh, I love that. It's so interesting because you would think like that would be like prison sometimes is looked at as such a negative connotation. It's like some of the worst of the worst, you think, but right there, that was a really best of the best thing to offer. That's a great perspective to put yourself in. Imagine if your loved one was gone from you and there's no way to spend any time with them other than the small amount of time that you're allowed. What would you really do? What do you value? And I sure as hell know it's not your phone.
I mean, like I said, I have a unique perspective on life. When you're incarcerated, you have a tendency to really focus on the things that the average person takes for granted.
Yeah.
And so it really opens your eyes. It gives you a magnifying glass into like what is valuable.
Yeah, I'm like, that kind of leads into the topic of our show, as always, everything does. But some valuable people in our lives are usually our parents. And something to really contemplate for you if you want to take the lead.
Well, the topic of the show is parenting self
Mm,
so that you can be a better parent,
yeah.
right? And even if you don't have children, you were one once and you did get parented. So think about your childhood. Who parented you? What stands out about the style of parenting that you received and or witnessed, right? So take a moment, if you're sitting still and you're able to do this, and just write down 5 positive things that you remember happening from your parent.
Mm,
And it doesn't have to be your biological parent. Parent, for purposes of this episode, means the person who took care of you. Your
yeah.
grandma, your auntie, your older brother, a bigger cousin, whoever was your caretaker and your biggest parent influence. Write down 5 good things that you remember about that parenting, and then 5 bad things that you remember about that parenting. And then I want to introduce you guys to 2 concepts. Some of you probably have already heard of the golden rule, right? Where it says, treat people how you want to be treated. But then I learned in some of my trainings as a peer counselor and a recovery coach about the platinum rule,
Hmm.
which says, treat others how they want to be treated,
Oh, way to level up.
right? So you ask yourself, how would you have parented you?
Mm,
And then you treat your kids as resources and ask them how they want to be parented, right? But it starts with what we were instilled. What was instilled into us when we were being parented? Because those are some of the behaviors that we're going to show when we're parenting, even if we don't notice them until after. You do a thing and you're like, oh, I sound like my mom, or I
Oof.
sound like my dad, and
Yeah.
and go ahead.
I was just gonna say I got schooled again by the little one yesterday. So, and it was really interesting because I was parenting her. I was remembering how I was parented, and then I had to see how I could parent myself in front of her to be an example so that I'm parenting her correctly. So it was like so much parenting was occurring in these moments. And actually, to be super honest with you, we went to the skating rink, and because I was being such an active parent, this dang thing was not around. I did not get a single photo the entire time I was there.
Nice.
Because it was more important to be her parent in those moments than it was to take a picture that I was going to put on Facebook. And so what I started to notice, and then I'll start by being honest. In kindergarten, it said on my report card, Priscilla, she kind of has a thing going on to where if she colors outside of the lines, she gives up on the project all the way. And that's something maybe we should work on, because to me, being perfect was already ingrained in my system when I was 5 years old. And when something wasn't perfect, I was done doing it because I didn't like the feelings that it brought in me of not being perfect, so that I got validation from the people that were above me. Okay. Now, I also had a lot of older siblings who were doing things better than me because they were older than me. But to my perspective, I had no clue yet really what I was experiencing, other than I wanted to be the best at everything right off the bat. No practice, no nothing. So this also came from my parents' experience. They were also brought up in a similar light, that if you weren't perfect, you were a failure. So their example was constantly striving for perfection. And they didn't mean to put that pressure on me, but the pressure was already on themselves. So they were just leading by example on accident, and it started to create a tone. So we get out on the skate rink, and Zai is obviously, it's like slipping on slime. Okay. Like her feet are going everywhere. And she did not like that she wasn't perfect. She wanted to be an Olympic skater right off the bat. That's where that kid's at. And she's super athletically inclined. So I know her brain. She can visualize herself doing it. She can see herself being successful, but she did not like the feeling of what that was to her. So what I did is I continuously encouraged her for every last component of what she was doing. I'm proud of you for doing this. I'm proud of you for practicing. It's really neat to see you be brave right now and try something new. It's okay that you don't know how to do this. I'm more impressed that you're trying. And at one point in the skate rink, she fell down at the very end and totally kaboffed on her tush. And I threw a party. I said, woo, man, I love how you fell, dude. You fell perfectly. Like, that was the coolest fall ever. And promoting that moment, promoting the failure as actually being an accomplishment, I hope showed her that perfectionism is not what we were trying to achieve. We were just trying to do our best. And by the end of it, I got to tell you, that kid was trying to cross her skates. So she was going around, man. She was on top of it in just a few hours. She had accomplished so much. But I will say, I think I also accomplished some cool things as a parent, big time.
Think about it. You just perpetuated that, to live life perfectly is to just live life, because life is already perfect.
Absolutely.
Everything that's happening is already happening, whether you fight against it or don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by allowing her to hear you celebrate what her mind would consider a failure, you now may have planted the seed that that's not even a failure.
Nope.
I'm the best at falling. I'm the best at skating. I'm the best at trying.
Best at it all.
I'm the best at life, right? And life is the best. So that is really, really, really good parenting.
I love
First
it.
of all.
Thank you.
Right?
I appreciate it.
And it's funny because we had like family day on Sunday before we recorded.
Yeah.
And we went to the restaurant, and I didn't even necessarily do it on purpose, but we sat down and I wasn't even thinking about my phone. I think I left it at the house.
Yeah.
But at minimum, it was in the car. Either way, it wasn't with me. And just having that kind of emotional intelligence, because I really, really try not to let anything rock my boat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's because I want to be emotional intelligent. And my emotional intelligence is about how am I parenting myself? How am I simmering down the reactive child in me when my kids activate me and or my wife next to me? Because naturally, I want to defend my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets activated, I get activated. But how am I going to respond to that? That is the emotional intelligence. That is the epitome of parenting self. Ask yourself, when you're activated, when these feelings arise, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Who was it that showed me this? Who parented me this way that now my natural learned response is this? So we have to go against the grain and decide when and where we're going to parent ourselves in a way that is healthy and at the same time breaking old cycles that were passed down through generations that you don't like.
Yeah. Something that I learned a while back, and I think I learned it in a therapist's office. So thank you to whoever that was, because I've seen a few. and, but
Vulnerability.
yeah, absolutely. So one thing about what I used to do is I used to talk about my hypothetical child before I was a parent. And I became a parent a little bit later in life, in my 30s. I waited a lot longer than a lot of other people out there to go and have my baby, because I was really hyper focused on parenting, these concepts of what I wanted to do for my child and what had happened to me. I was kind of a little bit stuck on stupid too, and feeling like a victim of what had occurred to me in my childhood. And something that started to happen is I was always talking about this kid, this hypothetical human being that was someday going to come. And this is how I was going to educate the person. And this is how I was going to love the person. And this is the things that I was going to do when I was sharing my time with them. And in that office, I found out that I was talking about my inner child. That I actually was just talking about all the things I wish happened, the conversations I needed, the examples that I wish I would have saw. And so a part of being a parent truly is probably starting with parenting ourselves and being humble in that it's okay to do that. It doesn't discredit what your parents did. We are on pursuing internal evolution. And I think inside we're always going to be that little 5-year-old self. We're always going to be that little kid out there in this big world learning how to navigate it. And I've even seen, like, my mother is 73 years old. Like, she was still a little girl. She was still a little girl deep inside of her, even though she had been this cultured, rich and wise woman. She was still trying to learn, and she was on her pursuing internal evolution. It never stopped for her. And she had to parent herself in new ways. On a lighter note, in terms of changing it up a little bit, there's some really quick and easy things that you can do to parent yourself that are just so simple to start off with, that are maybe something you didn't do when you were a kid. Like, one thing we do in our house is we make our bed. Every day I make my bed. Like, my parents used to yell at me to do. They used to say, make your bed so clean your room, because then when you get home from school, you'll have a nice environment. It'll feel good. And I used to be like, mess with that. And now I try to set an energy around my intentions in my day. And I like a clean environment. I like an organized environment. It helps my brain thrive. So just one little thing, just one little parenting tactic to myself, and saying, no matter how busy the morning is, Priscilla is going to make her bed. And I do. And then we get home and the bed's made, and I'm like, whoo, look at that vibe. Look at that feeling. This is great. It's an awesome way of just taking one little tool and changing it up. And it doesn't have to be this like big feat. It can start with really little things.
What's so funny is it's no wonder you and my wife get along. For one, she's really bit, like everything you just said is Lacey in a nutshell. She has to have clean and order,
Yes.
and all that. And
That's
sometimes I'm a little chaotic. And also, I remember listening to a comedian, I believe it was Jim Gaffigan. I don't know if you're familiar. He's funny. And he was like, he was talking about the bed thing. He's like, why would I make the bed after I get out of it? I want it unmade when I'm ready to get back in. And also, I don't tie my shoes after I take them off.
Oh, no.
And I was just like, oh, this guy's hilarious.
That's a good way of being contrary, for sure. But that's humor. That's humor.
Yeah, he was being funny. But, and on all seriousness, taking steps, because that's self-care. Parenting yourself is also about knowing thyself.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding what activates you, and also understanding what deactivates you, what makes you harder to activate. So how can you preemptively be prepared to go out into the day, especially if you work in a very activating environment, for example, whether it's your bosses or just the work or line of work that you do. And let me backtrack real quick. Shout out to behavioral health therapists.
Yeah.
When they're good, they're great.
Yeah.
and just, those of you that do your job well, you can really take people there. And For those of us that have stigma around mental health, there's nothing wrong with going to get some mental health assistance from a professional, from somebody who can help you
Absolutely.
help yourself.
Yeah.
Because pursuing eternal evolution, sometimes you just need a guide to take that journey, but you're still taking all the steps. You're still on the journey. Sometimes
100%.
somebody that's been there will help you get to where you need to be so that you can be okay when you look in the mirror.
Yeah, I was like, I got to go back to being a little funny, getting a little jokey. But the roller rink, right? So you know how there's different like times of the roller rink, like certain people are allowed to come, the speed skaters, you know, or like it's going to be the slow skaters or the couples, you know. Well, one thing that I always say is like when I'm trying to get everyone involved or everyone on board, I say it's an all skate, like, you know, like everybody jump on. And so
That's all stage, Stan.
absolutely. And recently, when I started to like really dive into my pursuing internal evolution, man, that was an all skate. I was like, I will take that resource and this educator and that mentor and this therapist. And I wanted anything that I could possibly get my hands on to grab all the tools I possibly could to help myself pursue internal evolution. And then what it did is it took the pressure off of me. It wasn't just about me taking all the burdens of every different type of knowledge out in the world. I was being given gifts and I was allowing myself to receive them. So it is a great thing to give yourself the gift of receiving knowledge from many other people that are educated in this world to help you. Use the resources out there. Don't be shameful.
For real. With that being said, we're going to head into some 4 agreements cards like we normally do. I'll read 2. Priscilla will read 2. Little mini discussion or thoughts that are provoked, and we'll continue on with the show.
All right, which pile we got? I always love the art on these cards. They're so pretty. All right, here we go.
I think I went first last episode.
All right, I will do this first card, which is, of course, exactly what we've been preaching and teaching this whole time. Don't make assumptions. Speak openly and honestly. When you speak openly and honestly, you won't have to make assumptions. The day you stop making assumptions, you will communicate cleanly and clearly and achieve impeccability with your word. And so I've got to go back to the whole concept of lying too. Like, you don't want to lie to yourself about things. And like when we're speaking impeccably and we're going about this stuff, our true emotions, we're navigating everything and speaking clearly and cleanly because we're being honest, we're telling the truth, then we don't have to cover up anything. We don't have to cover our tracks or our bases. And really, I think that takes a lot of assumption out of the game. And no one out there is going to assume anything even about you because you're being direct and concise with your word.
Touche.
I appreciate this.
Yeah, I like it. That's a good one. Got me like,
I know.
You nailed it.
Yeah,
right?
thank you.
My card is be impeccable with your word. Enjoy heaven on earth.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Look at this. Look at the beauty of this. Yes. Impeccability of the word can lead you to personal freedom, success, and abundance. You can attain the kingdom of heaven from this one agreement. Be impeccable with your word.
I love it. I'm like, and it just goes hand in hand with everything else. So perfect. It's kind of like that rainbow. It was impeccably created by all of the glory. Don't take anything personally. Ignore the opinions of others. Whatever people do, think, or say, don't take it personally. Others are going to have their own opinion according to their belief system. So whatever they think about you is not about you, but it's about them. And I got to go back to parenting a little bit on this one. So I used to take my parents' opinions and concepts really personally. And later on, I realized that they were just navigating life on their own pursuit of internal evolution. They weren't necessarily trying to demand that of me. So it wasn't about me in all of those moments. They themselves were trying to heal and grow and then eventually show me through example. But I myself needed to not really care that much about what everybody else was thinking about me. That approval was sort of deafening to me. It's probably what created that need for perfection. So I'm going to take down the card and drop it like I would the tea.
Drop that tea.
Ugh.
Ugh, I'm allergic.
Ugh, like Jill said, EpiPen.
Right. I'm highly allergic to tea. Please don't serve it to me. Always do your best. Do your best because you want to. Do your best when you are enjoying the action or doing it in a way that will not have negative repercussions for you. You do your best because you want to do it, not because you have to do it, not because you are trying to please the judge, and not because you are trying to please other people. Now, I want to point out, when he says please the judge, he's talking about you.
Right.
And then he goes into saying, not because you want to please other people. So keep that in mind. Our biggest critic, our worst judge, the enemy of my enemy is myself.
100%.
Right? And so be careful how you're judging yourself. Be careful what motivates you to do a thing. And if you're feeling good about the thing that you're doing, then give it your best. Even if your best doing the same thing isn't as it was yesterday, and it might not be as it is tomorrow. But as long as you can look in the mirror and decide, I gave it my best. I didn't try to overachieve, and I don't believe I could have done better. That's your best. It's just that sweet spot. So always do your best.
I love that. I was like, so another tip for parenting yourself to come full circle is like, what is motivating you? You know, like, is it everybody else that you're comparing yourself to that's motivating your actions? Or what we should really be focused on, which is something I've recently been touching, and I'm also doing it with my kid, is something called intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is what is inside of you that is motivating you to do what you are doing every day. So let's sit down with that a little bit this week, and let's think about what is important to your intrinsic motivation. Why are you ticking the way you're ticking? And have those conversations with yourself. Eat that pie, see where it sits in your belly, and then give yourself some credit.
All right, I think it's time to figure out who said that.
Oh, I'm excited.
Who said that?
Well, a spiritual leader and an educational renegade, I have to offer you, like she has offered herself to all of us, Miss Dr. Becky Kennedy.
Author of Good Inside.
Ah, man, she's the best. I'm going to read 2 more quotes from her just to kind of get into it with her a little bit. She looks sad. I wonder if she will cry. Sometimes I cry when I'm sad. Sometimes I don't. Either way is okay. Getting your needs met and tolerating distress time for an experiment. I want you to say the following sentence out loud, preferably in front of a mirror, and then observe how your body responds. I am allowed to have things for myself, even if they inconvenience others.
Ooh.
Now pause. Does your body want to accept or reject what you just said? What's your natural reaction to that statement? Do any memories or images come to mind? The only goal here is to learn about yourself. One reaction isn't better than another. All data is good data. I love her. Rebecca Kennedy is an American clinical psychologist who is a founder and chief executive officer of the Good Inside Company, an online parenting advice service. She has been called the Millennial Parent Whisperer by Time Magazine and is a #1 New York Times bestseller for her book, Good Inside.
Which is a book I use, actually, and I've watched her on YouTube for the first time a couple classes ago in my parenting class. Let's just manifest this right now. Hi, Becky. How are you? We're going to get her on the show.
I'm loving
This
that
is
you're
Becky.
here. Your energy feels so good. I like how you smell. Bringing some senses.
Great energy, Becky. Thanks for coming on the show.
Man, you are prime. I wanted to also go back to one of her quotes just now, and I have a parenting example that I got to watch come to fruition, which is something that I like honor in my kid, and I also honor in myself. So she looks sad. I wonder if she will cry. Sometimes I cry when I'm sad. Sometimes I don't. Either way is okay. And so we go back to this big feelings, and to be really honest with everybody, it's super vulnerable. This year has been one of the worst years of my life. And then at the same time, one of the best years of my life.
You mean 2023?
Yes, absolutely. Well, it could be even 2024. We'll do both because it's always the best and the worst if you really want it to be. And I am learning and growing and pursuing internal evolution. And what I'm trying to do is be authentic and honest in all of my feelings. And so I cry whenever I need to cry. And I've had a lot of sad cries. I lost my mother in a very tragic way, and the tears run deep and wild when it comes to processing that. But I've also accomplished things that I've never accomplished before that sometimes will fill me up with so much joy that I cry tears of happiness. And I had a moment where I've been showing my daughter this every time I go through anything. I explain I'm crying because I feel this way. This was a lot, and so I am sad, and that is okay. This is a lot, and it's making me happy, and that's why I'm crying, and this is okay. And Zai gave me a compliment about being a brave mother. She told me that I'm always taking care of her and keeping her safe, no matter what, no matter where we go. And getting a compliment like that from a little kid is it's unreal what that feels like in my body. And I started to well up and I started to cry. And she said, "Oh man, look at those tears. Those are happy tears, Mama. That's cool. You have happy tears and you have sad tears. They're both okay." Yeah. And I thought, dude, this is working. Like, how
telling
neat.
You, your daughter is going to grow up and be a guru.
Oh, man.
She by far surpasses the emotional intelligence of some of the elders I know.
I'm taking notes with that kid, man. She shows me a lesson or two. She actually helps parent me all the time. And it's not by putting the pressure of forcing her to be a parent in my life, but I listen to her like she is a parent. I give her credit for knowing what's up in this world. And she is wise and rich and always available to share. So again, something that Becky Kennedy does too. This is really great. She does some really awesome things where she connects with her children. I learned this in a support and parenting class with B. And one thing that she said is 15 seconds of reparations can stop a lifetime of desperation. And Becky Kennedy takes these moments of pure honesty to connect with her children and to also know that she can learn from them too.
Yeah, because when you're reactive and you say a thing, a lot of times we have the tendency to double down on it or be in our pride and just let the kid run upstairs and be sad about it. But what she means by the 15 seconds to just go upstairs and be like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to even say that. I was feeling like this. You did this. And I know that you're probably feeling this now, but you know what? Let's move forward. Let's get past that and let's create a new pathway from that moment. Right? And so, yeah, just honor that.
I'm like, I love it. So, as you guys know, we kind of have a new formula going on here. And so that.
Pie for the people.
Right. We're headed into the extended cut. So, if you're done with us, you can take off. But I hope you stay. The first thing up on the docket right now is we've got philanthropy news. And today we're going to touch base on some local elements. So, today, actually, when we are recording, is the 29th of January. But this is going to be a progressive movement. There is an event that's happening at the Washington Center for Performing Arts at the Black Box Theater, and it's a meet and mingle and imagine with individuals and organizations from across all disciplines of our arts, cultural, heritage, and science community. And it's called Inspire. It seems like it was brought on by the city of Olympia. So I just want to read about what Inspire Olympia is. Inspire Olympia is a voter-approved initiative that dedicates a portion of Olympia's sales tax to local nonprofit organizations offering arts, science, heritage, and cultural programs and experiences for the public of Olympia and the Olympia School District. So this is a multi-year public investment. So it's going to be ongoing, that seeks to strengthen our community's culture sector, to expand access to quality arts and cultural experiences in Olympia, especially for the youth and traditionally underserved populations. Hey!
Kudos, Oli.
Absolutely. I feel like we're in the right spot, man. We couldn't be in a better place. It's I don't know if you guys know this, but Olympia is the 360. So it's kind of a vortex, and you always come back. So if you ever have been here before, you know it's a really nice place to be. The support that our community has for us is impeccable, and we are so beyond blessed to have the kind of people we have.
Definitely. I mean, I happen to work for the winner of the best nonprofit in the Puget Sound.
So cool.
So, you know, I'm part of a organization. The umbrella is Peer Washington. So peerwashington.org, check it out. There's multiple sites in different cities, different locations. And I'm not going to go into it because I want to leave that curiosity out there. So you go check it out. Check out what we're involved in all across the state. It's a beautiful thing that I'm a part of. I'm honored and proud to be a peer in the field doing what I do.
I love it. And Peer Olympia, and my peer right here has been one of my greatest assets in this community. Sometimes peer connection could be the one thing that's missing in your life. So try to find a peer near you, be it either you visit Peer Olympia, of course, or even just someone near you that has life experience. Try to share with one another. Try to be vulnerable with one another. Connect. Curiosity fosters connection, and it's going to be the best way that we can all heal and grow together as a community. I would like to touch on one of the agreements in the blueprint before we head over to some aggression suppression with me. But today I would just like to say, and you guys can repeat after me if you'd like, I agree to be better than I was yesterday, to be the best version of myself in any given moment, and to focus on what I can do, what I can control, and what I invest my energy in. Amen. We are what we agree to.
We are. And I'm actually going to give you a little bit more pie because Priscilla did start with that curiosity fosters connection.
Yeah.
So that agreement is as follows. I agree to connect with others in a positive and authentic way. I can accept that curiosity fosters connection. I agree to look for the commonalities among others and myself and practice open-mindedness when confronted with something new by asking questions that are meant to seek understanding and promote unity.
Mm.
We are what
What
we
we
agree
agree
to.
to.